Welcome back to the Intel. Well, we have just less than a month before the upcoming municipal elections scheduled for the 1st of November. Political campaigns are in full swing and the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa is on the campaign trail in KwaZulu-Natal. That's where we find the Intel regular contributor Siphamandla Goge, who is in KwaNyuswa in the area of eThekwini. Siphamandla, Ramaphosa on the campaign trail in KwaZulu-Natal. What is the latest coming out from his side?
Indeed, he's been campaigning in KwaZulu-Natal for the past 2 days now. He's focusing on eThekwini Metro, and that is where the ANC is trying by all means to retain eThekwini Metro. So now we expect him to come to KwaNyuswa. This is Ward 2. That's where we expect him to come and campaign for the governing African National Congress. eThekwini is one of those metros that the ANC controls across the country. In 2016, they lost a number of metros, including Nelson Mandela Bay, Tshwane and Johannesburg, which they have since regained. But I can tell you that countrywide, most of the metros that they govern, they only include Mangaung, which is plagued by challenges of service delivery and allegations of maladministration. It's under administration. So the only metro that they have is eThekwini and Ekurhuleni. Those are two metros that the ANC can really claim to be governing with the outright majority. But eThekwini Metro is under threat, and many political parties are going to put up a very brave and aggressive show to try and capture eThekwini Metro. We have seen the re-emergence of Inkatha Freedom Party. The EFF is making inroads in eThekwini. You've got other smaller political parties, the DA as well. So the ANC is facing a possible threat of losing eThekwini Metro to at least a coalition government. It's something that the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa is trying hard to avoid, saying and urging ANC members and supporters, including community members, to go out in numbers and vote for the ANC to defend the metro. But he has been met with a number of issues, and one of those issues is the issue of candidate lists. Yesterday, when he was campaigning in KwaMakhuta, Efolweni and Mbumbulu, many people raised the issue of candidate lists, saying, well, certain candidates were imposed on communities. They did not vote for those candidates. In fact, in Efolweni, Ward 95, we saw scuffles breaking out there. Some people who are opposed to the candidate, urging the president to intervene. Well, he maintained the party's line that says after the elections, the National Executive Committee of the ANC has mandated ANC structures to relook and revisit the issue of disputes. But he has not been spared when it comes to criticism about lack of basic services, issues of water, sanitation, electricity, potholes and gravel roads. Many people that he has been engaging with on door-to-door campaigns have been complaining about those things. So the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal has brought in its leader to come and convince people to vote for the ANC. This is a province that has been known to be hostile to ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa. But today in Mlazi, we saw a number of people coming out to show support. We've been to Wandengezi, he's been warmly received. And now here behind me, you can see in KwaNyuswa, people are waiting for him to come and campaign. Of course, more promises. The question is, how are they going to deliver services this time around, because they've been governing many municipalities?
Siphamandla, one of the nice things about election season, especially for broadcast journalists, and I suppose it applies to print journalists as well, is that you cannot go for too long without getting comment on one of the issues in the atmosphere, in the air, from these politicians, because they are freely available. So avoiding tackling an issue becomes difficult, because sooner or later, Siphamandla Goge will shove a mic in your face and ask you a question, and now you have to answer because the cameras are rolling, and usually we are live. And what am I saying about this? Cyril Ramaphosa is having to instantly react to the Public Protector report that implicates Oscar Mabuyane, the Eastern Cape Premier, in some wrongdoing.
Indeed, it's interesting, Thulasizwe, that you are mentioning that. I can tell you that today the ANC head of elections, Fikile Mbalula, and party spokesperson Pule Mabe have been saying, well, the president has raised some concerns when he's on a campaign trail, that he's not asked questions about the campaign itself. We did put it to them that at the end of the day, he is still the president of the republic. That is why he is protected by the state presidential protection services. That's why he is utilizing the motorcade of the state. So we will ask him certain questions that relate to his job as the head of the state. And he had to account yesterday, he had to respond to what the public protector has found, that the Eastern Cape Premier, which is Oscar Mabuyane, a political ally of President Cyril Ramaphosa, by the way, duly or benefited unduly when it comes to the memorial service tender funds that were meant for the late struggle stalwart Mamuwini Madikizela Mandela. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa very quick to say he hasn't seen the report, but he is adamant that he's going to study the report and it will be taken into consideration. Now we know that Oscar Mabuyane himself has said he will take that report for review. Let's take a listen to what ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa said yesterday about this report.
On the Eastern Cape, I haven't seen the report myself. I have just read about it in the media, and clearly it's a matter that has to be looked at closely and to be studied and to be put under consideration.
Siphamandla, we've also been hearing, though, about that report because, you know, the difficulty about this report, I suppose, will be Oscar Mabuyane must be held to account, and so does the other person implicated therein, the other ANC leader in the province, Madikizela, must be held to account, no question about it. If they've done wrong, the SIU must be all over them, the hawks must be stinging them, must basically have their claws in them, and they must be sent to jail if it needs be, and actually money is recovered. But the difficulty, the debate, where the only debate comes in really is the sleuth who's been investigating this, being Busisiwe Mkhwebane, who has not covered herself in glory at times. So that's the only point at which the debate comes in. That if they've done wrong, they should have the full weight of the law thrown at them is beyond a debate. So this is a preamble from me, unnecessary perhaps, but it has to do with the fact that you heard from Busisiwe Mkhwebane herself, the sleuth that has done so much damage to her own credibility, such that even in instances where her reports are founded on real facts and real positions of law, you just have to pause for a moment and read it very carefully, the report.
Indeed, especially bearing in mind that over a number of years now, the public protector herself has been embroiled in what you have described. Many people questioning her character, questioning her understanding of the law. Many people have come to the conclusion that many of them no longer engage with the public protector's reports. They would rather go for her. Unfair as that is, as unfair as that is to Lasizwe, I can tell you that at the end of the day, the public protector continues to release these reports as per her office's mandate. And many people who've been commenting, those who are supporting Oscar Mabuyane, they've been very quick to dismiss the public protector, of course, alleging and saying she is tainted. But at the end of the day, they are not engaging with the report itself and the findings of the report. Hence, the public protector has defended her report, saying they investigated this. There were findings that were made. Let's take a listen to her unpacking the findings of that report related to the Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyane.
There are two matters which we identified for investigation, whether an amount of 1.1 million in respect of the memorial service of the late Ms. Madikizela Mandela was irregularly deposited into the bank accounts of Mthombeni projects. And the second one, there is another 2.2 million, which originated from the Eastern Cape Provincial Government, which was paid as well into this Mthombeni projects by Key Spirit Trading. So the Mthombeni project, it was discovered during our investigation, and even we had to interview Mr. Bam, who is the owner of this Mthombeni project. There are two, we have affidavits to that effect, where we had to find out why monies were deposited into his company's bank account when he has not delivered any services for the goods, especially for the transportation of the community to the memorial service. And the second one, why the 2.2 million of the state was paid into his account when he never delivered any services for the Eastern Cape provincial government. So there's evidence in our possession which then shows the monies, how they move from the Mr. Bam's account or Mtombeni projects into this company, which is called Mr. Muran's company, which was renovating the house of Mr. Mabuyane. And there are emails which confirm the monies which were deposited and that it's for the renovations. Some monies went into the personal account of Mr. Matikizela. I must indicate that Mr. Mabuyane by then was the MEC for Economic Development. Mr. Matikizela was the Treasurer General of the ANC.
So the only thing I can add to that, Siphamandla, is that even a dead clock is right twice a day at least. So let's hope that there was due diligence in this instance, the right law was cited, the right evidence was followed through, and everything was done, you know, according to the way that things are supposed to be done, not these instances where we've heard contradictions such as the suggestion that you can act inadvertently while you are acting deliberately at the same time and citing the wrong piece of law, etc., etc. Let's hope this time around all the T's were crossed, all the I's dotted, and Oscar Mabuyane must account, and if he's got a case to answer, he must fall, and fall really hard and be taken to the cleaners. But now, Siphamandla, the president is also responding to the issue around Etolls. I remember Fikile Mbalula at some point, I think it was around Easter, saying that he's going to have the biggest media briefing in the history of media briefings in this country to announce that there's a solution to this e-tolling situation. Here we are in October, and we're still dealing with e-tolls that we've been dealing with for several years now.
And I can tell you that even though I'm not a fortune teller, I'm not a Sango Matula Sizwe, I can predict that you will still be dealing with this issue for a number of months to come and even years, because the ANC-led government is walking issue. Seems as if there is no decision that has been taken. There is no solution to this matter. Yes, ANC politicians will tell you that, well, a decision has been taken, e-tolls are going to go. We know the Provincial Executive Committee of the ANC in Gauteng has resolved that the e-tolls must go. It's a thorny issue that has divided the National Executive Committee of the ANC. But when it comes to government, that's where the decision has to be taken about the future of the e-tolls. And for now, apart from the MEC of Roads and Transport in Gauteng, that is Jacob Mababolo, who is very strong in his criticism and who's calling for the e-tolls to go, I can tell you that Fikile Mbalula has been promising that e-tolls issue will be dealt with once and for all, but nothing has happened. So yesterday we had to ask President Cyril Ramaphosa about this, to say yes, it's not an issue so much so for the local government elections, but it's an issue that has been there. It's been under consideration for a very long time. In fact, those are his words. So he had to respond yesterday, but his answer was not convincing too, saying, well, a decision or a solution will be found at some point, implying that it has not been found. Listen to him.
The question of e-tolls has been under consideration for quite a while, and the Minister of Transport is here. It is being handled, and so it is not an issue so much in terms of these elections, because our people who are affected by the e-tolls know that the matter is being addressed and a solution is going to be found.
Scrapping the e-tolls is top on the agenda. We are looking at that. Scrapping the e-tolls, we are discussing that. Scrapping them totally, we are looking at that. So it's not something that is offside in terms of our discussions and the decision that we need to make. But even when we make that decision, it will have huge implications.
So in all respects, the conversations we are having is, even the original idea of the model, there was not even proper risk analysis that was done, because otherwise how did they hope they were going to enforce this? So from a risk analysis, conditions in South Africa, the model was completely wrong. So to that point, we are saying to national government, there is no reason to still keep this. And that's why we made a submission and said there are following options to generate revenue, to finance expansion of the roads, maintain the roads.
I have to wonder if people like Fikile Mbalula, if Fikile Mbalula in particular believes any of the stuff that he says around Etolls and the imminence of a solution, and they're going to be scrapped. We are working on scrapping them. I wonder if he still believes it, because I doubt anyone else still does. Siphamandla, lastly, South Africa is finally off the UK's red list. That's good news.
Indeed, that will be welcome, especially considering that the UK is one of South Africa's biggest trading partners. But when it comes to the tourism industry and tourism sector, you've got the biggest chunk of tourists coming all the way from the UK coming to South Africa. And, you know, by having South Africa being placed in that list or red list was really very suicidal, if I can call it that, or should I say it had a negative impact on the country's tourism industry and the business sector as a whole. So that will be welcome news. South Africa has been campaigning hard for that, especially arguing that the scientific evidence that was used to place the country in that red list was not convincing, because COVID-19 cases and infection numbers were going down, whereas the UK decided to place the country on that red list. It didn't make sense, because all the efforts that were implemented and put in place to deal with the increasing number of COVID-19 infections were proving that the solution, or there is something that is happening, especially since the country was seemingly passing, or, you know, going through the third wave. The first wave was there, the second wave, but the third wave, the country was making progress in terms of ramping up its vaccination, you know, plan, or even though some people were saying it's moving at a very slow pace, but there was progress in terms of the vaccination program. So it didn't make sense as to why South Africa was being placed there, because the numbers were decreasing, vaccination rollout program was underway, but it seems as if good news is finally happening. As of next week, the country will be taken out of that red list, and tourism authorities are hoping that will boost the ailing tourism sector.
All right, that's eNCA's Siphamandla Goge out in KwaNyuswa in KwaZulu-Natal. Take care, brother. We will talk again pretty soon. That's Siphamandla Goge, the regular contributor to the Intel, always bringing us updates from the outpost.